Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 80. I'm Chris, and welcome to our podcast. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm Jill. Chris and I are the founders of the Becoming Ellie community. As the legend goes, Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who beat Thor in a wrestling match. We decided to name our community after her because we were inspired to be more like Ellie.
You can find out more about the Becoming Ellie community and this podcast at our website, becomingellie.com. And Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I.
Be sure to sign up for our newsletter while you're there. That way you'll know about new episodes and anything else that's new in our world.
I'm really excited about today's episode, Jill. We're going to be talking about the best ways to get fit and strong.
Yes, we're talking to Lyn Lindbergh today. She shares lots of great ideas with us.
Yes, I think our listeners will enjoy hearing what she has to say. Let's go to the podcast.
Lyn Lindbergh is the author of the book Couch to Active, the missing link that takes you from sedentary to active. She is the host of the Health and Fitness Motivation podcast, and she is also a blogger, speaker, coach, fitness influencer, certified personal trainer, certified Pilates instructor, certified Group Fitness Instructor. You have a lot of certifications, and president of Couch to Active. That's great.
Lyn also has a degree in education and spent 20 years in Fortune 500 corporations in senior management roles, overseeing extensive training programs for a variety of companies.
On her website, Lyn says, I have 3 chronic health issues. Still, I get out and exercise every day. These health issues fuel my compassion for people and my understanding of what it really takes to get moving when life gets in the way. Even with my physical challenges, I have completed the Seattle to Portland 200-mile ride 6 times, and I've completed multiple half marathons, 10 triathlons, and countless 5K runs. Thank you so much, Lyn, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Jill and Chris, for having me here. It's an honor and a pleasure to meet both of you.
It's great to have you here on the podcast. Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a really interesting background. And as I said, you have a lot of certifications, which is very impressive. How did you get involved in fitness and helping others become fit?
Sure. Oh my goodness. I haven't thought about that in a long time. How did fitness in general start for me? Because I wasn't one of those kids who did sports growing up. I grew up in a home where, exercise wasn't really a thing. And if you were a runner, like that was bad for your knees. You're going to blow out your knees if you're a runner, It wasn't until my mid-20s when I moved to a new city, had no friends, moved to Seattle, Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yep. In the .com boom, had no new friends or anything. And I met some women that seemed like pretty nice ladies. And they said, hey, do you want to do a triathlon? And I'm thinking, what's a triathlon?
Yes.
But I'm also thinking, I like these ladies. I'm desperate for friends. Sure. Okay. I get to train with you and we get to hang out. That's like, okay, cool. And so that's where it started. And then near the end, almost end of the .com boom, actually, I joined a corporate, and that's when I started my 20-year corporate stint, and was so incredibly frustrated by how it was just so hard to fit in exercise, and then add a kid to the mix and it's almost impossible. And so I was just really, really frustrated by, how if I snuck away during lunch to try to get in a walk, then I was the weirdo who was being all healthy, mashing up my degree in education and my 20 years in corporate and my frustration with all of this and my frustration at like the fitness industry, how they made me feel like I wasn't good enough. They made me feel fat, ugly, and out of shape when I really wasn't. I thought there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way where we can integrate this in with our lives. And so that's really where the concept of Couch to Active came from, just to help me figure out how to get this whole exercise thing going in a way that actually helps me smile and I don't dread. So that was the very, very beginnings of it.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
So you weren't necessarily an athlete as a young child, and you became one as a young adult. So when you were in the corporate world, was that part of working out corporate world, or that was regular corporations working in an office kind of situation?
That was Heine in seat in front of desk corporations.
Yeah. So I had a similar experience, and know I gained a lot of weight sitting there in front of that computer just because you didn't move. I mean, I'm just curious if that was something that you found is very common.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I distinctly remember I went from teaching elementary school. I was a 5th grade teacher.
Okay.
And I went my last year teaching, or second to the last year teaching, was the year of Columbine. And then I was on my feet all day long, all walking around, all everywhere, constantly. And so when I got my first corporate job, I sat down at my desk, and I literally remember the first couple of weeks, it was so hard to sit. I was like, my body was like, well, I don't know if I can do this. This actually hurts. And, a couple weeks later, I was fine. I was like, I could sit all day, And then 4 months later, I had thrown on 10 pounds. And I thought,
happens fast, doesn't it?
I was like, oh my gosh. And back then I was still in my late 20s by then. So I was young enough that it's like, okay, a couple adjustments, I can bounce back, no problem. Now I'm, almost 48, and it's a whole different story now.
Right. I do remember so I had cubicle desk chair life. And I remember so even before Fitbit, I started wearing a pedometer for some challenge or something that I was doing. And I realized that I could spend my 8 hours or whatever at work and have about 200 steps for the whole time I was there. And I remember I'm just being shocked. So then it started like, well, I could add 15 more steps if I take a longer way to the restroom.
Baby steps.
That was it. It was like, I got to figure out what I'm doing here, because this is horrible.
Yeah. Oh, it is. And I wonder, with people working from home and so many more people at home, I mean, everyone thinks, oh, I gained 10 pounds because of COVID. Well, maybe it's because you're not walking to the garage and to the office, and you're not getting up and getting ready and getting out the door. I mean, it adds up quick. Yeah.
You're right.
Yep, it sure does.
Yeah.
Your book and your company, Couch to Active, I love the play on words in that. So do you model your program in sort of the same fashion as the Couch to 5K apps?
That's actually a really great question. So Couch to Active actually is currently not like Couch to 5K. So Couch to 5K is, you print out that piece of paper, or you download the app. On week 1, do this. On week 2, do this. Right. On week 3, do. Yeah. So Couch to Active is really when you should exercise more, you kind of want to, but you dread it, and your life is busy, or you have chronic illnesses, yada, yada. I mean, nobody relates to that at all. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. How do you get that exercise in your life and that activity in a way that requires less grit? Because everyone says, just do it. Just do it. Just if it's important, you'll make it a priority. Like, sorry, I have visceral responses to some of these. And so it's like, what can we do to meld our lifestyle so we are smiling more? And because I know for me, I'm really not, me personally, I'm not really motivated by just going to the gym and just getting on a treadmill and doing weights by myself. So for me, the idea of going and spending an hour away from my life doing something I don't like or dread every day is like, blah, that's not the life I want to live. I mean, I would rather die a couple years earlier, I would, I mean, so it's really thinking outside
until you get to that point, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I changed my mind.
Yeah. Okay. I reserve the right to change my mind on that. Yeah, totally. And so, true that. And so I just really help people realize, like, it's about movement, and you don't have to go hard until you just hate life. And one of the things and we just learn all kinds of silly things. Like, one of the things I do is a blender. I call it my blender squat. So I, make a smoothie a lot of days. Ooh. So my blender is on the bottom shelf of a cupboard, kind of in the back. So every morning I squat down, reach back, grab that blender, pick it up, and then I put it away. I don't let it live on my cupboard. And it makes me smile, because it makes me like, ooh, I'm healthy. I'm doing a squat. And little things like that make a surprisingly huge difference in quality of life. And then it's just helping people realize.
Well, I was going to say, I realized that when my son moved out, when he went to college, and all of a sudden I'm carrying the groceries in from the car when he had always done it. That was one of his little helpful things to do, is let me get the groceries, Mom. All of a sudden I realized, man, these things are really heavy. They never used to be so heavy. I wasn't working out at that point, and it was just one of those wake up calls that, you realize you're not doing stuff. And so I love how you incorporate something that is just natural, where you do it anyway. And it's part of it.
Yeah.
It's a neat idea.
And helping people realize that they're way more empowered than they realize. And that for a lot of times we have the answer within us and we can figure it out. But a lot of times it's just taking the time to pause and think, how could this work for me?
Right.
And to have somebody help them brainstorm a million ideas, and to have somebody there to help them. This is huge. Give compassion to yourself for where you're at and the struggles. Because most of the clients I work with have chronic health issues or are blind. Those are my main areas I focus on. Yeah. So I personal train individuals who are blind, and we have group fitness classes with people who are mostly chronic illnesses and blind, and setting up an environment, what I call, it's an environment where doing your best doesn't feel like a failure.
Okay.
And redefining success, because when you have chronic illnesses or you are blind, there's just so many limitations where you really genuinely, honest to God, are doing your best, and your level of effort is probably higher than some athletes.
Right.
But because of your body's going to do what your body's going to do. So having compassion for where you're at today, having compassion for if you have something that's never going to go away or change, that's the hard work.
Right.
And then having that supportive environment where you can continue to gain strength. I don't like to say improve. I like to just say gain strength, gain more mobility.
Nice.
Because sometimes, if you're paralyzed for life, like there's no use beating your head against the wall trying to think I'm going to run a marathon someday,
Right.
Yeah. It goes deep and heavy really quick. And I try to keep it as light and fun as possible.
Well, it sounds like Couch to Active is geared to people that either are coming back to fitness after a break, or have challenges. And obviously our audience is women over 50.
Yep.
There's certain challenges there. Some people have more than others, but what advice would you have for women who are starting back up again, just starting out?
Awesome. So women we'll say between 50 and 70, start getting back into it, or thinking about getting back into it. I think one thing is, I would say, is to not feel pressured by the fitness industry, because when you start looking at like, oh, maybe I'll buy some DVDs, or the second you do a Google search on this stuff, your algorithms or your social media is, Beachbody's going to hit you, P90X is going to hit, like all these, like, oh, look at me and my awesome abs and my, fake tan and, and it's just going to make you feel awful. And so for just starting out, there are places and there are people who just have that tremendous amount of compassion and it will help you find a spot where you can get this exercise joyfully in a way that helps bring joy into your life. And really, when you're 50 to 70 or even younger than that, in getting back into it, injury-free is your fastest path to success.
Oh, no doubt.
Absolutely. And it is so hard because when we're 50, 60, 70, we still think we're 20 until we hang out with 20-year-olds. And then we're like, no,
nope, not there.
No, I'm 50. But injury free is your fastest path to success. And so really listen to your body, If you go try something new, try it easy, give yourself 48 hours break to listen very carefully. What are my joints saying? What are my muscles saying? What is my mental health saying? And then use that information to inform the next time you go out and just stay right on top of any injury and right on top of anything you dread and focus on trying to get it to be something that'll help you smile. And that'll take you a long way.
Yeah. I love that joyfully part.
Yes, it has to.
Because you want to do it again. It's fun.
Yeah. And there's a lot of data that shows Michelle Seeger wrote the book No Sweat, and it was essentially the compilation of all the research around exercise motivation. And it really comes down to, we exercise because we want to live longer. Yeah, we exercise because of next summer's bikini body. We might want to, whatever. But really, the consistency in exercise is all about, do I enjoy it right now?
Yep.
And they found like people will go to gyms and they'll say, I want to work hard, push me hard, and then you push them hard. Cause I've taught group fitness in large gyms and people do this all the time and you can push them hard and they're like, yeah, that was so awesome. But statistically, that person who was like, yeah, that was awesome. Statistically, they're less likely to come back because it was so hard.
Oh, yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
But you do something more sustainable, a little easier, you're more likely to do it again and again and again because it's building
fun without killing you. Right.
Yeah, it's building yourself up as opposed to tearing yourself down. And that's a hard thing, especially for our generation where we were taught, no pain, no gain.
Oh, that was.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah.
I do remember when I wanted to go to this boot camp class at my gym, and I had a young guy who was my trainer, one of the best trainers ever. But he said, well, let's make that a goal rather than you just going in there and killing yourself and then feeling kind of crappy. Well, he didn't say crappy, but
sure,
because, everyone else is doing stuff and you're going to be a little behind. He said, let's make that a goal. We'll work towards doing that. Mm-hmm. So that's what we did. And when I went to that class and I made it through, I was so proud of myself and happy. And I remember maybe I'd been there a few months and a woman showed up totally out of the blue, just like, I'm going to do this class. And that's exactly what happened. She did the class, said, oh, this is hard. And then she never returned.
Yeah.
I just remember that thinking, well, the preparing for it was probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Having that goal of working towards, that's what I want to do and working towards it.
Well, and when we're so new getting back into exercise or doing it for the first time, some of us is, we are so injury prone and we can do 10%, it feels like, of what everyone else around us is and still walk out injured. And so that's just a big piece is whose definition of hard are we talking about?
Right.
When we're talking someone with chronic illness who their goal is to get to the mailbox and back every day, and that's their starting point. For them, walking to the mailbox could be just as hard as an elite doing a boot camp,
Right.
class for a whole hour.
And so your advice does that advice change if you are actually already active, but you're wanting to do more or maybe something different?
Yeah. The injury free is your fastest path to success. That's true across the board for anybody. If you are already in good shape, let's say you're already a runner and
Right.
you run half marathons and you're pretty good at it, then to go from a half marathon to a full marathon, you probably already have kind of a good sense of how to train for that, or it wouldn't take a whole lot.
Right.
But if you went from, say you're running half marathons and now all of a sudden you want to do weights for the first time ever, that advice of still start by doing less than you think you can, give it 48 hours and see how the body responds. That still absolutely applies. It's really the best rule of thumb I found working with people is teaching them to really listen to their body, give it 48 hours. And then you can just be, if that shoulder joint that rotator cuff starts talking to you, you can be right on top of getting that strengthened and healed before you ever even get near ever tearing it. But if you just go right in and do weights, you could day one tear that rotator cuff and now you're, maybe surgery and 6 months of rehab. Who knows?
I like the that's a very specific number, 48 hours. That's very helpful. Well, it's better than just saying, wait and see how you feel, because some of us would say, well, it's been 8 hours. I feel fine.
Yeah. Well, and it's the time, it takes about a day for the muscle soreness to come in.
Right.
So if you go out and walk in a mile and you haven't walked in years, that mile, you may feel awesome. And then the next morning, your calves may be a little tight. And then that next day, for some people, it's 48 hours.
Right.
That delayed onset muscle soreness will be even more. But after that 48 hours, unless you have some chronic illness that really delays your healing in general, which you probably already would know of if you had it, because you'd be in really bad shape, then yeah, it's that 48 hours really, there's a reason for that number. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I like it. So thank you.
Yeah.
When you talk about active, what does it mean to be active? And is it something other than just exercise? How do you define it? Yeah.
How do we define active? How do we define exercise? What is fitness? Yes.
Well, we do like to ask people, how do you define fit? But we'll ask you, how do you define
People
active?
think of it differently. They do.
They do. They really do. So what I teach is to think of your body as you are a human being. You are a human animal. In the same way, a dog is a dog, a plant is a plant. You need to water your plant. You need to feed your dog. You don't feed your dog candy bars, because that would make them sick. So you think of that for yourself too, as I am a human being. And so as a human, I don't know what the difference is between movement and exercise. All I know is my body's moving. So I could be walking on a treadmill. I could be walking in the mall. I could be, running away from a saber-toothed tiger, for lack of a better example. My body's just like, I'm moving. And so when it comes to exercise, I really look at it in 4 different components. One is that cardiovascular. So what gets your blood pumping? And you don't have to be like out of breath. Oh my gosh, I'm so sweet. It's just like what gets your heart pumping. And that could be anything. Gets your heart pumping in any way, anything. That's cardiovascular.
Okay.
Yep. Then weight bearing is where having strong muscles and having weight on our muscular system, that's what holds our skeleton in place. And that's what helps prevent osteoporosis, right? That weight bearing tells, and so that could be weights or yoga or gardening or anything. And then the next one I talk about that we're learning more and more about it is the lymphatic system, which our body, like if you get a cold and you get those lumps around your neck,
right,
or other areas, that's your lymphatic system. And it moves toxins through and out of your body and purifies your body. Well, the lymphatic system, here's the crazy thing. When you talk about exercise for health and wellness, the lymphatic system doesn't have a pumping mechanism. So it is any and all movement helps move fluid through your lymphatic system. So you could literally just raise your arms in the air right now and lower them, or you could march in place I know right now.
I just picture our listeners doing this. If you're driving, don't take your hands off the steering wheel.
Yeah, exactly. Anything, any wiggling, anything at all. That is actually a good, healthy thing, especially with COVID now when we're thinking about our immune systems.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And especially a lot of times when we think like, oh, I got to do so much, or I got to get in a half hour. It's not worth anything. It's like, no, actually any and all movement is worth it. Yeah. And then the last one, and then I'll let you guys ask another question. Then the last one is that flexibility. And so really as we age, the being able to have that flexible spine is huge, being able to reach down and grab things. And so all four of those together is really what I define physical fitness.
That's great. Thank you. If we are trying to be active every day, how do you help your clients get the motivation to do that? Because many of us start out, but it can be a challenge to get off that couch every day.
It is. That motivation piece is literally, that is the holy grail of exercise, right?
Right.
How do you get it going? So when I bring clients on, we talk a lot about what do you love? What do you enjoy? And the first thing I ask is not what kind of exercise do you like? It's, yeah, I know. Phew, good. Because I hate it all. Is really asking, what do you love in your life right now? If you think about the last few days, what's made you smile? Then use that as a launching point to kind of bounce off any exercise ideas. Because the problem is sometimes we'll say, well, what makes me smile is my children or my grandchildren. But my concept of exercise is I go to a gym away from my children. Well, there's a disconnect there then.
Right.
And then we do massive amounts of brainstorming of what do you think would be fun for you, and just trying all kinds of different things until you find stuff that you actually enjoy. I got to tell you, for me, I have found, and this isn't true for everybody, but for me, I enjoy doing anything with people. And I need the accountability of other people. I need my walking buddies. I need my friends I meet with. And quite honestly, that's partly why I teach group fitness classes, is because when you're the teacher, you can't. Yeah.
You have
to show up.
You have to show up. You got to show up. You got to do it.
With a smile.
With a smile. Exactly. And I know that about myself. And I know that I'm meeting a friend at 3 today, and I taught a class this morning, and those are so powerful for me. I never miss those. But if I put it on a calendar for myself, I'm going to go for a walk at 3, and at 3 it's raining. I'm like, no, wait. Yeah. We know that
is
too.
The problem with that people do say, put things on your schedule it and you'll do it. But you know what? I'm the kind of person that I am not necessarily motivated by being able to check it off as done.
Yeah. I put it on so I can take it off.
Check, did that.
Yeah. But so it's the same logic as so like when I said I was working with the trainer, if I am paying somebody to train me,
right,
I'm going to go because I have that money invested.
Yep. And they're expecting you to be there.
Right. And if you don't show up, they still take your money.
Yep. Exactly.
Yep. There's something about that.
Yep.
That is the biggest motivator of all. It's like, okay, I have to be there in 45 minutes. I am going.
Yeah, it is. And even like the group fitness ones I teach, the people that show up, they get to know each other. And, so, one of them yesterday was sick, and she's, I'm sorry, I'm sick, but tell everybody hi for me. Just that connection is huge. And I found also when I work with clients, a lot of times I hear the like, oh, well, I don't want to take the time away from my spouse or my partner, or I don't want to take the time from my kids. And I'll say, have you talked to them about that? And usually the answer is no. And I said, well, what if you told them about this goal of yours, how do you think they'd respond? And usually it's a resounding, yes, please go do that goal. And so by being vulnerable with the people in your household and saying, hey, this is something I'm trying to figure out. I don't have it figured out yet. I hope to do it in a way that makes me smile more, and which is good for the whole house,
Right.
Then usually they can be really incredibly supportive and actually help kick you out the door,
Yes.
Yeah.
I had one client a couple weeks ago who said one of the things I have is one of the quotes I have is, my body needs exercise and my body will always need exercise. This will never change. It's not negotiable. It's science. And I have people memorize this. And so one of my clients said she had that on a sticky note, and she said her 6-year-old pointed at the sticky note and said, Mommy, you haven't been doing that.
Oh,
I know.
Wow. Called out by a 6-year-old.
Yeah. And so she has that support. And I've done that before. I've signed up for like 2 months of a class that was at 5:30, like right at dinner time, and I thought, the family's just not going to be able to survive without mom, it's dinner time and mom is going to be. No, not only did they survive, they loved it because mom wasn't mother henning everybody and they got time away from me.
Yes, everyone likes those breaks in the routine, and doesn't mean that they don't love their mother. It just means
they like the break.
Well, they love it. The mother is smiling more because she's doing something joyful, right?
Totally. Exactly. Yeah.
When you were talking about what is active, what is exercise, you talked about cardio and weight bearing, strength training kind of things. And I'm just wondering, do you suggest one over the other? Like, how do we figure out what we should do for a week of exercise?
Oh,
can you kind of take us through that?
Yes. So this is actually kind of a funny thing that you bring up, because the Centers for Disease Control, everybody has the basic guide and recommendations for exercise for the United States and the UK. And so I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. Let me see what Central and Latin America have, South America have. Let me see what China says. Let me see what Russia says. Let me see what Africa says are the recommendations. And no joke, they're all the same.
No
globally.
Way.
Yeah. So either we're all just copying each other and,
I thought you were going to say that we were way off the mark or way under, way over or something or other. Yeah,
exactly.
You're kidding.
Yeah, no, everyone. And so here's what it is. It comes down to, they say in a week, the minimum exercise recommendation to maintain health or stave off preventable diseases is 150 minutes of cardiovascular in a week and 2 times weight bearing in a week. That's what they say. So essentially, and you can slice and dice it a million ways. And there has been more and more data and research coming out saying that you can essentially slice and dice this any way you want. And they're even finding, 1 minute of exercise, of a weight bearing exercise, is awesome. So like if you're in the line at the grocery store, you can raise your heels up, and that works your calves. You could do 1 minute of calf raises right in the grocery store. Boom, done for your calves for the week, or at least one of the 2 times in a week. So the easy way to slice it is to say half hour of cardio 5 days a week, and then weight bearing twice a week.
And that cardio is actually elevating your heart rate to some degree.
Yes.
It's not just like, I know when I take my dog out for a walk, I just sort of amble along. But if I go for a walk, I might speed it up and work up the sweat a little bit.
Yeah. And that is where it gets more interesting, is what I like to call it. Complicated, whatever. There's other factors, like if you're in a job where you're moving all day, that actually is incredibly beneficial for your whole system. And if you're in a job where you're sedentary all day, and then on your way home from work, you stop by the gym and you do a half hour of hard cardio, and then you come home, they're actually finding that is not as healthy as that all day slower movement.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So they're really, we're still figuring all that out.
Okay, good. Thank you. So as we age, many of us focus on flexibility and balance.
Yeah.
What do you recommend for both of those things?
Flexibility really is movement. Just moving your body through the whole range of motion. And you can think about just every single joint in your body and how does this joint move? And what are the different ways this joint can move? So I'm like moving my wrist here, taking my head left and right, bending, touching my toes. And so for flexibility piece, there's classes, stretching classes, or if you're not really into a class, you can grab a mat or just sit on the floor while you're watching TV and just do some flexibility and stretching. Nice and easy. It should feel good. If it's painful, then you're doing it too hard. And with some consistency and time, we do a lot of stretching in my classes. So the folks who do like 2 fitness classes a week plus the Saturday stretch with me, they get really flexible really quick. It's pretty exciting to see.
Okay.
And then what was the other one? So you said flexibility.
Balance.
Ooh, yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. We know balance is so, I would say balance and one body weight squat. So basically being able to sit on the toilet by yourself with no help, right? Those are the goals we have.
Right. Yeah.
And balance, of course, is for fall prevention. So we don't break our hip, which we know statistically is a really big thing to be focused on. So for balance, it's really any balance, and you can do anywhere. You stand up, pick up one leg, try to balance. And once you get a little better at that, you can pick that leg up a little higher. Once you get a little better at that, you can take that leg and start moving it around through the space. Move the leg and forward or behind you or to the side. Try to throw yourself off balance. Those are just really simple, things that we do now. So then if we trip, we've got that strength to catch ourselves and stay balanced. So we don't end up in that, space where we're rehabbing a hip break when we're older. Yeah.
Yep. You're certified in Pilates, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm at Pilates. Okay. That was kind of a mistake.
Was it?
No. No. I know. I love
you say that.
No. I love. No, if I could only keep, sorry, that came out so wrong. If I could only keep one certification, it would be my Pilates certification.
Oh.
The mistake, because the Pilates, the mat Pilates that I've done, I used to have that chronic low back pain. And one time when I was in the office with a client, I was sitting at a conference table and I reached over to grab a pen out of my briefcase and my back froze.
Oh,
and
no.
And I couldn't move. Yeah. That kind of, yeah, we know what.
Yeah.
Not long after that, I got my Pilates cert. I have never had back issues since. Ever. Yeah. So it's just been the best. And about a year after I got certified, I went to the doctor and she's like, you grew 1/3 of an inch.
Oh, nice.
That's great.
Yeah. It's like, ooh, do.
Okay.
Most people start shrinking, not growing. So
I know.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So it does. It holds you up. So when I said it was a mistake, it wasn't. The cert was awesome. But when I signed up for it, because I'm kind of a certification junkie, I had no idea that it was like collegiate level anatomy, physiology, a full year long. I just thought it was like, like 4 weekends. I had no idea.
We'll go do some Pilates.
Yeah, we'll do some Pilates and I'll get my paper. I had no idea that it was like, oh no, and you're going to be studying these like 400-page manuals while in between classes.
Oh, okay. So it's a serious certification.
It was. It absolutely was. It was really good for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I want to shift gears just a little bit here.
Yeah.
You mentioned in the bio that you have some chronic illnesses, and, that's something that many people deal with, many of us deal with. And I'm wondering, what words of wisdom do you have for those with chronic illness?
Sure. And actually on my podcast, I'm really open with them. I'm missing 25% of my lung function. We're not sure why.
Oh,
Yep. So they say I have the lungs. I'm late 40s, 48. I have the lungs of a 70-year-old. And I have fibromyalgia. and it's called collagenous colitis. And just if you know that word colitis, everybody knows who knows that word knows that's not anything anybody wants. But I'm really open about it. And then working with a lot of people who have chronic illnesses. I would say if the only reason I list mine is because then it just kind of baselines you where my bias and where most of my personal experience is from. And I work with people who have diabetes and migraines and other things. Compassion is where it starts. And that's the hardest piece of having compassion for yourself when you're having a bad health day or a bad health month or a bad health year. And you feel like you're spending all your time at the doctor's, all your well-meaning friends are giving you all these like wonderful miracle cures, try this. And what I call it is when your body won't keep up with your spirit. Because most people with chronic illness inside of their bodies, they have these amazing spirits. They're awesome people. They just want a body that'll, show even a third or a quarter of who they are inside. But they're kind of trapped. And so compassion is huge. And then finding the kind of exercise that works for you, that really restores you and doesn't leave you always feeling like a failure. And that's really where the concept of the group fitness classes I started teaching came from is I know that if you've got chronic illnesses, even when that fit yoga instructor is like, excuse my attitude here, but says, it's okay. Work at your level. You just do the best you can do. Good for you. Like even that can be really frustrating to somebody who's like, don't patronize me. Don't like you just don't even know what I'm dealing with. And so, finding a class like the ones I teach are all, not only do you not have to have your video on, I know we have some people who come and they don't turn on their video. And I know some of them are doing maybe 10% of the class, and it's great. And we even have video classes twice a week. We call voice only classes, where I don't have the video. They don't have the video. It's all audio. And the reason I do that, the concept first came from my blind clientele, because it gives this magical, like level playing field for everybody. But then I found my sighted clients are like, this is awesome because I hate being the person who turns off their video. And then I wonder if people are wondering why I turn off my video, So find that in your community, or find that somewhere because it's there and we're seeing it more and more and more, especially with COVID. The fitness industry is like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. People are struggling more than we realized, and they've been out of the gym, and it's intimidating and hard to get back. How do we serve? So we're seeing some positive shifts. Got to be your own advocate with chronic illness.
Yeah, well, then maybe you sort of just answered that, but part of dealing with chronic illness is that you have good days and you have bad days. So how do we deal with that?
Yeah, we have good days, bad months, bad years.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Support groups is huge. One that I've done for my fibromyalgia personally that I've shared a lot that people really like is I've learned that when I have a really bad what I call fibro flare, I have this really dysfunctional behavior I go into that I'm working on, where I hide. I don't feel good. I'll go in my room. I hide. I'm kind of grumpy. I'm like, just leave me alone. And then my well-meaning husband is like, oh, honey, what can I do? How can, let's try to go for it, anyhow. So what I did is when I'm having a bad fibro flare, I'm not thinking straight, and it feels dark, and it's a hard place to be. So I actually, when I was feeling good one day, took 2 3x5 cards and I put them on my fridge. And one 3x5 card says, Lyn, when you think you might be in a fibro flare, here's what you need to do. And then I did step 1, step 2, step 3 of what, for me, I decided for me, this is where people have to decide for themselves. So for me, it was step 1, decide, are you having a fibro flare? Yes or no? Okay. Step 2, tell your husband, I think I'm having a fibro flare. Don't just go hide. Step 3, force yourself to try to go for a walk. And then this is for me. And then step 4 is decide what you can and can't do today. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Let the rest go. And then 5 was, if all else fails, just take a nap and it's all good. So, or remind yourself it'll get better. So, and then I made another card of how I thought my husband could help me. So then he could use that. And it's been awesome.
So rather than him saying, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
He already has his instructions.
He has his instructions. Step 1, ask your wife, are you having a fibro flare? Do you think you're having a fibro flare? Step 2, offer to help her get out for a walk. Step 3, leave her alone, put her to bed, leave her alone.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been awesome. So it's just coping skills, but it's still a hard place to be, chronic illness. And we're not alone though, because in the US, 70% of people over the age of 40 have a chronic illness. I didn't know that. And I didn't believe it. And I had to fact check it in multiple places. And sure enough, 70% of us have a chronic illness. 40% of us have more than one, but we hide it because usually chronic illnesses feel ugly.
Yeah. You don't want to keep talking about it all the time, you know?
Yeah.
You said 70%?
70. I know.
Wow.
That's what they're saying. 70. Yeah. I had to look it up. And sure enough.
Wow.
70%.
Earlier in the podcast, you had talked about your best bet is not getting hurt.
Yeah.
You know, staying injury free. And you talked about using 48 hours in between, you know, trying something new. But let's just say you did get hurt, you know, or you have some sort of chronic injury, not so much an illness, but an injury of sorts.
Yep.
And, you know, what kind of advice do you have for someone like that?
Real life. Yes.
Yeah, real life.
Yeah. Well, you know, Jill knows because we used to be running buddies until my chronic Achilles tendon just got to the point where I couldn't keep up and, you know, just rest. But, you know, what advice do you have for those dealing with a chronic injury?
Yeah. Well, tell us, Chris, about your tendon and what did you do and how did that work out for you?
Well, I pushed myself that last half marathon harder than I should have with a injury. And, and then of course the pandemic hit and, you know, I'm still not in love with trying to go back for running because I've had problems since 2005. So it's not like this is anything new, but I have more fun when I go bike riding because it doesn't bother my Achilles.
Great.
But I'm just wondering, you know, you probably have dealt with people, you know, you mentioned something about shoulder injuries or, you know, that type of thing. How do you suggest people stay motivated and find ways to stay fit?
Yeah. Because when you have an injury or you have a chronic, you know, Achilles, that is you're literally being your Achilles heel, it's tough. And it's another barrier to exercise. I mean, we have lots of barriers that keep us, you know, responsibilities, kids, family, sicknesses, and injuries. They're all barriers. And so if we take an injury that we have sustained and put it in that bucket of a barrier to exercise, then we can actually start getting a little more objective and dissecting it out. And we can do this with any barrier, but we'll just take an injury, say a tennis elbow that won't go away that you've had forever, and you probably will. So then we look at that barrier and we say, okay, I've got this elbow issue or I've got this Achilles heel. Is there anything, is this a permanent or a temporary barrier? And sometimes it's a little gray, but some of them are really temporary barriers where you're like, okay, I just, you know, twisted my ankle. This is temporary. I'm going to heal it. I'm back and running. Or you could say, okay, this is permanent. I am now paralyzed. I have been paralyzed for 2 years now. I will probably never walk again, you know. Or like the Achilles heel or the elbow, like, well, probably permanent, probably in there somewhere. And then we say, okay, is there anything we could do to remove this barrier? So have we done all the doctor appointments? Have we done all the personal training? Are we doing everything we can to support and heal and take care of it? then at that point, when we realize, okay, I actually have done everything I can. I have done the PT. I have done the, doctor appointments. My heel is still hurting, but I know I need to exercise. Then the hard work comes in, because now we have to make peace with our reality, and we have to make peace with the barriers that are here to stay. And that's the hard work. We could bang our head on the wall forever and just be like, oh, poor me, I blew my knee out running. Or, oh, poor me, I have bad knees, I can't. Or I could be like, poor me, I'll never be able to run like everyone else because of my lungs. Or colitis, poor me, I never know what day I'll be able to go for a walk because some days I can't be more than 10 feet from a bathroom. We've got to make peace with those so then we can move on and say, okay, then what's next? What's next? What else is out there? Because there's always something out there that we can figure out that'll help us smile. But man, it's just no good killing ourselves and going crazy over things that just truly are here to stay.
Then there's the person who wants to run with Chris, who says, oh, I wish you didn't have these problems because you don't run anymore.
Jill, you're going to have to make peace with it.
I am.
Jotted that down.
That's a barrier for you, Jill. It's here to stay.
It's not like it just happened or having been to $1 million.
I know, but that's like sort of the ripple effect of things, right?
Yeah.
So you've talked about your group training classes, and there are just tons of people now offering online classes.
Yeah.
And what do we look for when we're checking out classes? Because, you already said marketing is a bear on fitness. What do we do?
Okay. I would say always look for what's going to make you smile, right?
Right.
But know that some of the big box ones, they will have technically beautiful lighting, beautifully choreographed. And if that's what you value is, watching a supermodel do this with, perfect hair and makeup and lighting. And if that's your gig, great, go for it. But the crazy thing is, since COVID, if you want to do an online fitness class, literally the world is your oyster. Because I went, and when COVID first started and everybody started going online, I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if I can take an online yoga class in Bali, Indonesia. Sure enough. So I went to Google Maps and I Googled yoga studios, in Bali. I found one that had English, and I could pay $5 for this class through PayPal. Boom. And then I went to join the class, and I realized I got my time zone mixed up and I missed the class.
Oh,
that is the problem, isn't it?
Yep. And then there's that international date line.
Exactly. Exactly. So I signed up again, did my time zones a little bit better. And I showed up, and oh my gosh, it was so fun because they're in their little like tiki huts and their little spaghetti straps because it's so hot. And I'm literally in my fleece and my scarf with my carpeted floor, and they're like all saying hello to each other. And I pop in on the Zoom and I'm like, hello from Seattle, Washington. And they're like, huh?
Where?
I totally made their day. And so like I popped into like Cannon Beach, Oregon, like seriously, that for me, that was what brought me the smile factor. And just like searching to be like, oh my gosh, there's classes in South Africa I could take. There's, so I would just, as much as possible, my bias and what brings me joy is supporting there's a lot of really great people out there. Support the local people, support, studios in small cities. Their heart is really there. They're doing it. They're usually not doing it for their money.
Right.
And you can actually make friends if that all sounds good to you. But if you prefer to be more anonymous and you want more, just polished, then go the big box way.
Yeah. And what about those that might want a personal training online? Do you have any suggestions for how to find a good personal trainer online?
Yeah. Just search for them. And there's, I think I could look it up and send it to you, but you can search for, if you just search for personal trainers, Google personal trainers, that the targeting is really good as far as you can find personal trainers anywhere. The thing with personal trainers is to find one who specializes in, they call it aging, and I don't really like that, but you know what I mean.
Better than elderly.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Bariatric training.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
I'll take aging. That's okay.
Yeah. If you're looking for an online one, find one who just really will meet you and support you where you're at. If you meet with one, most of them will do a consult with you before they bring you on, and you should hear more questions from your potential trainer.
Okay.
Than suggestions. So they should be asking you about your history. What are your goals? What do you love? You should feel really comfortable with them. And you should feel like they are really listening very, very close to what you want to do, and not for 1 second feel pressured, because there are personal trainers who get trained in sales and trained in how to do what they call take you to the valley of sad. And, why is this important to you? And why is that important? They get you feeling like if you don't do this, you're like, the world's going to blow up and you're going to be miserable forever and your dog will leave you.
The fear sales tactic.
Yeah. Yeah. There is some of that, and that pressure. So if you're feeling that pressure,
find a different one.
Yeah. No. Find one that's really interested in being there for you, injury free.
Great. Do you give your followers, your clients, advice about food in general and in related to being active?
Yeah. So I've got a sports nutrition specialty.
Okay.
The advice that I give is if the needs get any more specific than the general, cut out your sugar, eat whole foods, avoid the processed foods, the things that a lot of people kind of know now.
Right.
I can help them, and I can help folks think through how to make that actually happen in their life, especially like I got 2 teenage boys and a husband, and I'm like, like the concept of cleaning my kitchen so it only has healthy foods, like,
yeah,
that's cute. Yeah.
Or removing processed foods completely.
Yeah. It's like, no, they all can just drive to the store and bring it home themselves. Like even though I would like to, I don't have that much control. So I can help folks figure that out.
Okay.
But beyond that, if they need support beyond that, I'm a huge, huge advocate of get yourself a nutritionist, a good nutritionist, and have them work through with you, because that could very much be the very best money spent that could get you feeling better, get you having more energy. And then all of a sudden you've got more energy, so you can go for walks without it killing you. You can do the exercise, you can do the housekeeping, and it started with food rather than just hiring a trainer.
That's great advice.
So do you have a certain way that you eat, like a vegan or paleo, or, I hear so many things, intermittent fasting, we've talked to a lot of people that have different styles of eating. And I'm just curious, do you have a particular way of eating?
Whew, you're asking Miss Healing Fibromyalgia and Colitis here. So
that's true.
But no, I pause for the obvious reason of I don't want to say, here's what I do, and then have people say, oh, I'm going to do this.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
I'm happy to. I am right now. I'm gluten and dairy free.
Okay.
Have eliminated most of my grains. For the best thing I did was essentially cutting out sugar. So I pretty much don't eat anything with processed sugar in it. And that was a big, that's changing the ketchup. That's changing everything in your house. For me, that's been magical, the cutting out the sugar, because I wish this wasn't true, but whenever I eat like a bowl of ice cream, then for the next 2 weeks, I'm like, oh, and I want a donut too. And oh, that pizza looks so good now,
It flips that sugar switch, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh, I wish it didn't. Yeah. So because I'm healing things, my eating is really good now because of, especially with the colitis. Let me tell you, that is a motivator to get you to eat healthy, because
Sure.
You want that freedom. And so you're going to eat the green smoothie I'll show you here. That's in my jar. But if I was to give just a high level, give me the tweet. What's the tweet for eating? I would say cut out sugar, and each meal, half of it is vegetables first.
Okay.
Boom. That's it.
That really resonates with us because we have the 2021 Veggie Challenge going right now.
Ooh.
So that's very cool that you said that.
Oh,
it's right in with a lot of the things that we're talking about. So.
Breakfast included. Cool. Breakfast included. Because if half your plate is veggies, like by the time you're done eating those veggies, everything else is all of a sudden you're like, I'm good. I don't need to feel like I have to eat all that other junk too. So what is this? Remind me and your audience, what is this challenge you're doing?
Our veggie challenge is you could either try one new vegetable a week, find a new vegetable and eat it. But more to the point is add more vegetables, like add one vegetable to each meal. And instead of worrying about finding a new vegetable, maybe just find a new way to prepare something, find a new recipe, that kind of thing.
Okay.
It's adding the vegetable, but then doing something with it to make it a little more new, like we're shaking
palatable. Palatable.
Right. Yeah, because we've kind of run out of new vegetables, at one point, because we did this a couple of years ago too. But having new recipes is always a fun thing.
Yeah. Okay. Wilted spinach, one of my favorite ones. You sure you've done that one before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With mushrooms.
Ooh,
is that good?
So tell me about your wilted spinach.
Wilted spinach, super, super easy way to do it. The easiest way is just a little olive oil in the pan, a whole big bag of pre-washed spinach.
Yeah.
Just dump it in the pan with a little bit of water. And then you could either do fresh garlic, but I usually just grab the garlic salt from the cupboard, little garlic salt, let the spinach simmer down until it's just barely not all the way wilted. So a huge bag will wilt down to almost nothing. And it's so yummy. If you don't think you like spinach, you will love this. Okay. And you can get tons of spinach in. Like you could eat a whole bag in one sitting and not even realize it because it wilts down to nothing.
That is really good because I've made spinach that way. And I thought I didn't like spinach because when I used to have spinach as a kid in the school cafeteria, it was so horrible.
It was the canned or the frozen kind?
I don't know what it was. It was yucky though. I will attest to that. But the way you just described it, that is delicious. And I had no idea how much I love spinach.
Me too.
Spinach has to be a nightmare.
Well, it was Popeye the Sailor Man,
Oh, he did. Yeah, he did. He pushed those cans open. Yeah, you're right. I never thought about it, but it had to taste terrible.
I love it.
So yes, that's the veggie challenge.
Cool.
Add a vegetable and figure out a new way to eat it.
Great. Yeah, that's fantastic.
You do run out of finding new ones, but you can find actually like squash. So if you say squash, that's not a new vegetable, but sometimes you can go to the store and there's some little squash thing that you've never heard of before.
Yeah.
Those are fun just because that, you have to come home and Google, how do I cook this?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, one of my other vegetable favorite things is not a vegetable, but if you, in the grocery store, you can get that aged reduced balsamic vinegar, or it's called a balsamic glaze. Balsamic glaze. And you cut up tomatoes, almost any vegetables, tomatoes, carrots, little avocado, and just squirt some of that glaze on it. And I don't know why, I love it. Love it.
Oh, and I've read like where they tell you to reduce the balsamic vinegar, but buying the glaze would be a lot easier.
Way easier. Yeah.
It's thick, but it's good.
It's thick, like almost thicker than pancake syrup.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Just a little bit. And it's completely different from regular balsamic vinegar. For me, I love it.
All right. So you've mentioned it, and we've talked about your book a bit, but tell us a bit about your podcast and the book.
Sure. So the podcast, it's called the Health and Fitness Motivation Podcast, and you can go just right wherever you're listening to this podcast, and just search for Health and Fitness Motivation Podcast, and it's me on the cover. I'm smiling, hiking up a hill, and it's 5 to 10 minutes, 7 days a week. And
nice.
Yep, and it's just focused on any and every way I can think of helping people getting motivated. And it's kind of fun. I'm having fun with it this year because 2020 was kind of a what the heck year, right?
Right.
So 2021, I was like, what the heck? I'm going to get really creative. So I've got episodes that are like mystery theater meets health and fitness motivation. And, it's just like this scary, what would you do?
You're getting pretty creative here. That's great.
We're kind of going a little crazy with it, which is it's fun for me. So that's just a lot of fun way to keep people going. And then the book is called Couch to Active, and you can get that on Amazon. It's in some bookstores also. And that is essentially the book to work through if you're really wanting to make a change, but motivation has been a problem, then this book will really walk you through and give you ways to get really crystal clear on what's going on with that and how to manage it.
Okay.
And like that breaking barriers we talked about, is this a permanent barrier or a temporary barrier? That was right out of the book.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Great. We'll make sure that we put links to those. And if people want to find you online, where should they go?
Just go to couchtoactive.com. That's couchtoactive.com. Everything's right there on the website. That's really the best way. I'm on social too, but mostly for marketing, because social is, I like being social, like in real life. So we'll just leave it at that.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
I would love to meet with anybody, talk with anybody. And you can even, every Monday, I do a little meet and greet. That's free. Just a Zoom, you can pop in and say hi and introduce yourself.
Nice.
Oh, that's nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us today. It's been really great.
Yeah, it's been delightful. Thanks so much, Lyn.
Oh, Jill, Chris, it's been an honor. Thanks for having me on.
Well, we'll talk to you soon, I'm sure, maybe on your Monday pop-in.
Woohoo.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Lyn sure covered a lot today. I liked how she basically told us to start where we are. Small steps to get going.
Yes. Lyn's Couch to Active program sounds like a great way to get moving.
I like what she had to say about dealing with chronic illness. You have good days and bad days, and do what you can. So many of us are dealing with a variety of illnesses.
And, when she was talking about her steps and what she recommends, when she talked about the lymphatic system, I didn't realize that you need to keep moving in order to get your lymphatic system going, and it pumps when you move. So that's really struck me as something that I'm going to keep in mind when I'm walking and doing some exercises.
Yeah. I remember going to a yoga class once, and we did this lymphatic massage because the instructor said, basically, your lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like the circulatory system, your heart. And so we were doing all this sort of rubbing of our arms and things, but moving is a lot easier than lying on the floor, rubbing your legs and arms, trying to get the lymph to move. So that was great advice. I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've been talking since the beginning of 2021 about the veggie challenge. And I have to admit that this past week, I really slacked off and ended up having to throw away a jicama and some leftover eggplant and some cabbage. And I just have not been doing as well on my veggies lately. And, that's my goal, I think, for this next week, is to get back into the veggie challenge so that I have something to post and, to talk about that is not admitting throwing away very good vegetables, but I just never got a chance to use them.
Yes. Part of that might just be because the weather's warming up. So our minds are not turning to soup. So when you have like cabbage that's going to go bad, you say, hey, I make a pot of cabbage soup, but it gets challenged. That's why it's a challenge. If it was easy, we wouldn't have a challenge.
That's right. That's right. It's not easy, and it's easy to forget what your intention was. So, I'm really going to be trying to do more about my workouts and the veggies and all of that kind of thing.
If you're listening, let us know about your workouts and how you're doing with getting more vegetables into your day. You can go to our website and tell us about that, or on any of our social media accounts.
Yes, we're on Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And you can find us at becomingellie.com with links to all of our social media, or just use Becoming Ellie in whichever social media you happen to be on.
Yes. And if you are looking for an online community, be sure to follow us on our Facebook page and then join our private Facebook group where we encourage and support each other. When you go to the website, don't forget to sign up for our email list. That way you don't miss any of our articles or podcasts. You can sign up at becomingellie.com. That way, if you decide to drop off the social media scene for a while, you'll still know what's going on.
I'm thinking back to Lyn and her suggestion about do something and then wait 48 hours to see how your joints and your muscles, and I'm going to get back into some of my group exercise classes here, and I'm definitely going to be listening to my body because I know I'm not in the shape that I was with all the routines a year ago.
Definitely. We're, I think, all sort of missing having been in our group classes. So starting over again is going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to our next episode of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast.
Yes, me too. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.